But I do want, in terms of having people help you out, I really do want to like give a big round of applause for physical therapists because, and I shared this with Aaron before, because just like any other trauma, even if you've gone through a bad one, doesn't mean you're not going to go through other stuff. And I've been through other personal problems, but I've also been through other, because you're an athlete, and I would consider myself an athlete, so you get injured. And I remember I had, like, I did a bunch of stuff. My shoulder was a mess. And I had done this one lift or whatever, and I could just tell I screwed up my shoulder really bad. So I remember going, and I thought, oh, shit, I think, the rotator cuff injury. So I went in to see an orthopedist. So I had the whole MRI or whatever. He said, oh, yeah, rotator cuff tear. Got to have surgery. And I said, oh, okay. So how long is that? And he goes, oh, surgery, probably half hour, maybe 45 minutes, something like that. I said, okay, that's good. Well, when will I start running again? He said, oh, I don't know, maybe 8 months. I go, whoa, wait a second. Wait a second. That cannot happen. What do you mean it's in my shoulder? He goes, no, if you move. I said, well, forget it. I'm not. What else can I do? Yeah. And he looked at me like I was like this idiot. Well, okay, fine. You can go to physical therapy. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I did. But I was like, can we, because I cannot run for 6 to 8 months. What is up with that? So just to show you, my shoulder, absolutely fine from that.
There you go.
But again, same thing with the knee. Oh, you have to, and you won't be. That time out here. Yeah. Give me options, people. Yeah. Don't just say cut and fix. Yes. Not that cut and fixing is not a good thing, but it's not the only place to go.
Yeah.
So
we're finding a lot of the surgeons we interact with quite a bit, and I'm sure plenty more out there have the same philosophy. It's they want you to go to conservative therapy first, and then there's just usually a hierarchy of decision making now that we have the resources we have and the science that we know about, is that conservative therapy can really get you to the point where you need to go. And then obviously if it goes stale or if it stalls, then you have to go through your next option, which again is not so invasive. Usually it's the injection route, and not only just cortisone, but then you're looking at PRP and a variety of other regenerative type injections, and then that doesn't do its job. Surgery is then the next course of action, and even through that process, regardless of whether you didn't get to that point that you wanted to, you built some level of foundation. Like I tell people that all the time. They're like, man, should I get surgery? I'm like, well, let's see how long we can prolong this thing. Let's see if we can actually make the gains that we're supposed to make, or that you possibly can make, because regardless of whether you get surgery or not, you're going to set a fantastic foundation. And if you have that, then your prognosis after surgery is even better. And then you find out a little bit more about yourself, and then hopefully they get deeper into conversation, and they learn a little bit more with every subsequent session, and they start believing in themselves to heal. They start trusting if it's a good relationship. They start trusting with the therapist as a guide, or whoever it is as a coach to help them through their problem, and then they just they may second guess their original thought process. But not to say that it's not out there as an option.
No, it is an option, but I think, like I said, there's and the other thing too, I love when I went to this physical therapist, and his deal was shoulders, so that's cool too, because he was really into that, and he knew. But that at that time too, I was probably in my 50s when I went to go do that. And again, there was no judgment like, what are you lifting weights for? You're 50-something years old. And they go, doesn't everybody? Doesn't everybody do that? Yeah. Doesn't everybody do that? What is it? Yeah. But anyway, so I really like it that he was very serious about getting me back to a level that I could participate again and do things. And then you kind of, again, you adapt and adjust. You don't go to doing the heavy. You start it and you build, your skills back up. So yeah.
I do that a lot with folks, and right or wrong, it's interesting talking to you and hear your perspective. It'd be cool to hear what you think. But I always tell people, you have to almost earn the surgery. If you've been told hey, that's an option and it is, or if it's been recommended, I'm like, well, let's earn it. Let's prove that you're going to fail, and then a lot of good thing happens from that. Like Aaron was saying, you're certainly going to build a base, and if nothing else, and if you don't get better, then at least you've proven to yourself and to everybody else that this is your last option, and then you take it. And then when you get a great outcome from that, at least you feel like it was the right choice. But you'd hate to jump in there and have a surgery and do it maybe when you didn't need it, maybe your outcome's not as good as it was. Then you're frustrated and asking questions like, should I have done it or should I not? So whenever possible, I always like to tell them, hey, let's earn it. Let's prove that.
That's a good way to put it.
Prove that you need it. And so you can give it at least a few weeks or a few months if that's appropriate, and rock and roll. So
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and it's interesting too. It really changed going through this myself. Really changed how I approached patient care too.
Yeah.
So I would say to patients, look, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a consultant in your care. You're in charge. I'm here to, give you information and help you through that. And for example, I remember when I was going back into practice, there was a young guy, and he had, I can't remember what kind of hip issue he had, but it was pretty severe for a young person. He was a skier, and he fell skiing. And he needed to have, his hip replaced and that kind of stuff. And so I said, well, he said something to me about being active again or skiing. I said, okay, here's the premier question. How important is it to you to ski again? And he said, very. And I said, okay, then it's my job to get you there. Because that's all, he has the right to say, I want to do that. Now, how that all evolved, and he did it over time, and it doesn't, the thing that people I think also really need to realize is, like, even with my shoulder, that took a while to do. Just like if you do surgery, it takes a while, that recovery process. And it is a process, and I think embracing the process and realize that as you go through, and just recognize all the traction you start to make. You're making traction, and after a while, you look back and go, wow.
Yeah. Constantly being reminded of what they've already done is a huge element. And it could be so simple, like the rehab that comes after shoulder surgery. Like, they're in the sling for 4 weeks, and they finally get out of the sling, and they're like walking around by their side, and like maybe a week later they're sore. I'm like, but you're out of the sling.
Yeah.
You're like, you're actually using your arm. It's like, you can see it do something. Like, that's a great thing,
Yeah,
and then even like being able to run, and so like we're building blocks to run, and maybe you had some meniscus surgery of some kind. But even those initial steps, just start moving your feet fast. It's like, man, it seems like it's such a long ways to go from running, but it's like, where did you start? You limped in here with a brace on your knee, or maybe you came in on crutches, and now you're like leaving the ground finally and coming back down. So I think instilling hope in someone is continually reminding them what they've done to that point, and all the effort they've put in, the changes they've made. Like, harness that success story and keep it rolling, so that then you can get to your ultimate step. I think that kind of, like, you've said it in a variety of different fashions so far. I mean, it's such a huge element of what we do. Personally.
No, and you have to tell you, in all honesty, when I started seeing patients in that way, and would realize, I would say, we really need to work on this together. I need to know what you're interested in doing, or and whether it was a sinus infection or whatever. You just give the information, and here's what we know, here's what you do, what do you want to do? Does this work? This would work. And so at the end of, our meeting or whatever, I'd have so many patients go, nobody has ever talked to me like this before. And I said, well, why am I going to tell you? It's sort of like, I love it when I'd say, when, people come in with habits like smoking. And I got to the point after a while that, I always, I put away my pom-poms, and I'd say, are you interested in stopping smoking? And if they said no, I'd go, okay, next. And because I am not going to talk you into that. I'm not going to talk. He said, but I would say, when you choose or you are interested, come here, because I can help you with a variety of options to get to that goal. But again, the other thing too, when you go through I was less exhausted after a day of interacting with patients in that way, and they still got, I think, really good care, but I stopped telling them what to do, and I engage them in the process. Because the other thing too is, I didn't tell them all, and they walk out of there and say, I'm never doing that. But if you are with and go, okay, tell me what you're willing to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm willing to drink a lot of fluids for this. Awesome. Then let's make sure you get all these fluids, But again, if that's it, at least let's start there,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So true. No, that's exciting. That's why I'm a clinician. I'm sure all of us here that feel the same way. That's inspiring to hear the story and your approach to it, because it is inspirational. I mean, that's what it's all about. Is how can you help someone lift them up from one place to the next and be the guide. And we talked in a previous episode about being the coach and what it means to be the coach. I mean, and I think that's what we are at the end of the day, is coaches, and in some cases a bit of a life coach, certainly in our case a movement coach, in every aspect of how we can help heal and feel better. So